Okay, we are going to learn about Adobe Bridge right now as a companion piece of software to all of the Adobe family of products. And what it is that it's a visual file keeper. So we could go into Finder and we can see all the folders and we can see the file names, and maybe we get a preview, but the preview that you get in Finder or in like My Computer is going to be your biggest thumbnail is maybe an inch tall, right? When you ask for the biggest thumbnail. In Bridge, you can actually see the files as they look, whether they're a JPEG, a Photoshop document, an Illustrator document, a movie. You actually see them, and you can see them very large, and you can scrub through them and do a whole different ton of things. So from Photoshop, we can jump to Bridge, or it's a standalone program that we can launch as well. So I'm going to show you the 3 ways, and then we'll do it the third. But just so you know, from your Adobe panel, Bridge is its own option. Okay, that's one choice, and that's what you would have to do if you're downloading this to your own computers. You would have to make sure that you go and get it on your own personal device. Here at school, we can also go to the Launchpad, and we can scroll right or left through all of our options, and we see Adobe Bridge BR 2019. We could launch it from there, or let's go back to Photoshop. In the taskbar, you see PS for Photoshop. Click on that to bring Photoshop back. And then in the File menu, we're going to do File, Browse in Bridge. That's going to launch Bridge, and whatever folder you were working on in Adobe, it's going to show you in Bridge. What message did you get? That was. Can you say that loud?
It's like libraries and Bridge. Do you want me to go over the libraries?
Is it go to, what's the other option? Dismiss?
Yeah.
Shoot. Oh, I have it now too. Thank you. All right. Your libraries are now available in Bridge called Libraries. Well, that's cool. So, okay. So what that's saying is now that you have your own Creative Cloud account, you have libraries. So let's say you make a brush that is a custom brush that you're going to want to keep using in lots of different projects. You save it in the library, it gets synced to the cloud, and now you can use it on any of your devices in any program that brushes work in. So now it's saying, hey, we put your libraries in Bridge too. This is new. Which one do you want to go to, the library version or the normal version? So we're just going to say dismiss, but that's a cool feature to have. Okay. So this is Bridge. It is a window floating on top of Photoshop. Please note that. I'm going to actually make mine bigger so I don't get confused and see the Photoshop window behind it. So I'm going to make Bridge pretty darn big here by clicking and dragging on one of the corners. And what we're looking at is dependent on what we select over here on the left. And we can also see that right above it as, what do they call those? Breadcrumb trails or something like that, where you see what path you are. So on the computer, I'm in the hard drive called Yosemite. I'm in a folder called Users, and I'm in My Identity, BRBL. And within that, this is what I have as choices. I can see my apps, my Creative Cloud files, my desktop, my documents, my downloads. So when we went and got those 2 folders, those 2 files today, you either kept them in downloads or you put them on the desktop, one or the other. Double click on whichever place you stored it. For me, it was on the desktop. And now I'm seeing a visual representation of what I have on my desktop. I have a bunch of folders, I have a zip file, and I have a couple of screenshots. One of the folders is called Pics for Bridge. I want you guys to double click on that. Right now the view we have is not impressive. It's hardly any better than what you would see in the Finder. But the cool thing is we can totally change this. So down at the bottom right of this main big window, there's a slider, and we can start pulling it to the right and make our thumbnails bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? We can also see them in different configurations. So to the right of that slider, we see This version shows us the picture with the name of the file underneath it. This shows our content as thumbnails. The next one shows it as details. When you click on that, you see even more detail about each file. And the last one shows it as a list view. So there's a bunch of different views you can use. Let's go to that first one that's colored in, view content as thumbnails. So now this is much easier to see, but actually the way that we use Bridge, there's a better view. All of these different panels are resizable. So let's go to the two panels on the left. So the one that says computer, desktop, and then below it we have filter and collections. Go over to the right side of this to where your cursor hovers on that line and it turns into a double arrow, and click and drag to the left to make that a little bit smaller. Come on. Super slow. So I'm just making this narrow strip a little bit smaller. I can still see all the words, I can read everything, but it doesn't take quite as much real estate. Now we're going to do the same thing with this content panel. I'm going to take this side and I'm going to slide it all the way over to the point where I only have 1 or 2 rows showing. So take your cursor, wait till you get that double arrow. I don't know why I'm not getting a live view of this. And right now my thumbnails are too big for me. I'm going to make them a smidge smaller. I kind of like something like this where I can see them big enough, but I also can get 2 rows in. So my content window I shrunk down to be too wide, and what that did was it made the bulk of my space for these other windows. The cool thing is that when you single click, don't double click or it's going to launch it in Photoshop. When you single click on an image, it's going to show it to you in this preview window. But we can make that preview window much better by hovering over the divider line between the top and the bottom and pulling that down. So if you really want to examine your photos, this to me is the best setup for working in Bridge. All of your options are over here on the left. You can see them just fine, but by single clicking on them, you bring up this really big view of them, so you can really tell. Let's say you took pictures of the softball team after their victory, and you took 7 pictures in a row. How many are their eyes all open in? 1, we hope, right? So by looking at them in this view, it's really easy to see, oh, in this shot, 3 of the people don't have their eyes open. It's a nice big view, so that's very helpful when you're in Bridge. All right. Does everybody kind of have it set up to this general size and look? No? Okay. It's just about pulling the divider lines around and making it be a little bit different. It's not really. Take this divider line right here and do a double arrow, and then click and drag this way. Get that same line. That's the emphasis. Wait till you get double arrow. Like, hold down and drag. That's good. Now, these are just a little bit too big, so just take this slider and make it smaller. And then over here, oh, yeah. Right, this one's So that's a good point, though, what I just saw on Leah's computer. There are different workspaces here. We're working in Essentials. You see this at the top? If you get bumped around, you're going to have a different view. So this is what Libraries looks like. This is what Film Strip looks like. Output. Metadata. Oh, I'm stalling. I have the beach ball. Ugh. That's the metadata view. This is the keyword view, and this is the output view. So if you ever things aren't looking how you expect, make sure that you're in the essentials view, which is this one. So we have our windows dragged into sizes that we like. We can see a lot of information in that left panel. We see small thumbnails in our content panel, and we see a really big preview. All right. Okay, the first thing that we're going to look at is rotating a file. And have you guys ever imported pictures from your digital camera and the shots that you took vertically, show up tilted on your preview? So if you wanted to twist those around, let's just pick one that's a vertical shot. So just find any one of them. I'm going to pick this dog, for example. If it wasn't in the right direction, up at the top in our application bar, we have some circles to the left and to the right, and it's rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise or rotate 90 degrees clockwise. So if your picture was spun the wrong way, in the bridge view, you can simply do that to make them stand up, and that's helpful for looking at your pictures, obviously. Let's pick another photo. That one was kind of small. Did that. Let's say we wanted to look at a bunch of photos. So go to the top of your list of photos. They should be alphabetical. So we start with Calm Lake Michigan, or Calm whatever. Let's say the first 6 photos were all the same of the baseball team, and we wanted to select all 6 and look at them. You can either hold down Shift and go to the last image, and when you click that, everything from the first one you selected to the last one you selected when you're holding Shift will be selected. So if they're all in a line, that works great. If they weren't all in a line, just click on any one to get out of that. Let's say you wanted the first one and the 3rd, 5th, and 7th. Then you have to hold the Command key down instead. And then it keeps adding to how many you have selected when you hold the Command key. So in any way, shape, or form, I want you to select 6 pictures, and you should see all 6 of them show up in your preview. A really cool feature in Bridge that I think is fantastic for photographers and for anybody comparing photos is called a carousel. And right now we're looking at all 4 of these pictures, or 6 of these pictures, but there's a better way of seeing them. To get into the carousel mode, it's a keyboard shortcut, and it's Command B, like boy. Doesn't make much sense, but Command B. This puts whatever photos you have selected into this carousel view. So now you can look at this picture, and all you need to do is use the arrow keys on your keyboard, and arrow key right or left, and whichever one is the active photo is going to be that bottom center, and notice that its name is lit up in white. So as we're looking around at these, we can get a better view of them. A bunch of these images are low resolution web images, that's why they're really small, and the other ones are high res. The other thing you can do is when you find a picture, let's say you're comparing 7 shots of the baseball team, trying to find the best one where they're all smiling. If this image has 10 people with their eyes closed and you know it's out of the running right away, push the down arrow key on your keyboard and that kicks it out of the queue. Once you get down to 4 images in your carousel, it starts looking like this. Now to know which one is active, you have to see which name is lit up. So right now, for me, this lake picture is my active shot. Let's say I did not like that's a pretty good photo of the team. I arrow over to the flowers. That's a pretty good shot. This one is a dud. I'm going to kick it out by pushing the down arrow. And that one's a dud. I'm going to kick it out by pushing the down arrow. Eventually you can get down to having 2 photos side by side to really compare which one of these is best. It's a great way for looking at several shots of the same thing to pick the best one of them. That makes sense? Why you would do that? Okay. So let's say I still think that the team looks best in this picture. Now I got it down to just one. From here, we can either hit escape to go back, or there are some options down at the bottom that we see lit up. The one on the far right is your magnification or zoom tool, which actually I should have shown you that one step back. When you click on that, you can now move this around, and it's hard to tell where it's looking, but at the top left is more of a pointy spot, or it might be at the bottom right. It depends on what your view is. That's the part that's aiming at where it's going to zoom in and show you a zoomed in view. So if you're trying to decide between two pictures, which one is truly the best, you can use this magnification tool and click on the person's eyes in the picture on the left, then go to the picture on the right, use the magnification tool and click on that same person's eyes in the other one, and you really zoom in and see which one is crisper, which one is the best picture, which is the least grainy. So it's a great option to be able to really compare the pictures. So as you slide around, it's always zooming in on whatever's pointed at that black corner point. At the opposite corner, so in my case, lower right, is the X button that closes it out. The icon at the far left, I'm not going to get into today, but it's the collections tool. And basically, collections you can think of as like a manila folder full of like your favorite shots. So if you make a manila folder that says best shots and you're going through your pictures and you find one that qualifies, you can click on that icon and it will be added to that collection that you created. So there's lots of ways of finding the best. Hit the escape button on your keyboard to get out of all that. But the carousel is really helpful. That's Command B if you're ever comparing things side by side. All right. Another one, so Bridge is all about not just looking at your pictures bigger and better. It's about really labeling them well so that you can sort them, file them, and find them in the future. So in a perfect world, if you were a photographer and you were out all day taking pictures, when you come home and download the images, you would go through every one of them and you would label them what they are, who's in them, date they were taken, things like that, although that happens automatically. And then in the future, if you wanted to search for pictures that had a tiger in the woods, not a tiger in a stream, if you had it all coded in accurately up at that point, it works just like a database and it can find all these pictures for you using labels, rankings, and keywords. It's really, really powerful. The thought of doing that can be overwhelming, but there's a way to batch do this. So you can click on all 75 pictures that have a tiger, click once on the tiger keyword, and it gets assigned to 75 pictures at once. It's not as horrible as it might sound. So for the purposes of a job or a client, this is really helpful to bring in your photos and logically name them, store them, and tag them so that you and other people can find what you're looking for. So the first thing we're going to look at is labels. So up at the very top in our menu items, we have labels. The bottom half of that is the default version that Photoshop assigns. There can be no label, or it can be given all these different colors that stand for different things. These are really, really, really broad. That's why Photoshop gave them the names it did. Select, second, approved, review, and to do. So if you go through, and let's say it's a senior photo shoot, and you find a bunch that you like, you might tag them all with the red select. But you sit down with your client and they hate 50% of them. They dump them out, right? Maybe they say, on second pass, this is what I like. So you code those with yellow, the ones that the client thinks they like. Then you meet with the parents and find out that it's a $5,000 bill because they selected so many pictures, and parents say pick 10. Then you go through and maybe you put that green, you tag them instead with the green label of approved. What those labels are or how you use them is up to you. Just because the word select is put with them doesn't have to in your head mean anything. Maybe if it has an animal, you want to tag it with red or label it with red. It's whatever you want. If you actually want to change those, you can in the preferences. So on a Mac, you get to your preferences under the name of the software. So Adobe Bridge, here's preferences. Command K is the shortcut for it. Oh boy, I'll say allow. I hope that's okay. In your preferences, this is where you find the labels. I'm just showing this to you. I wouldn't recommend doing this because this is system-wide. So if you're working on your trip to the zoo and you think, I'm going to be really smart and I'm going to make these be lions, tigers, bears, buffalo. This is across all Photoshop. So when you open Photoshop and you're doing senior pictures, your label choices are going to be lions, tigers, bears, and buffaloes. Probably not the best thing to do. But if you ever want to change those, this is where you do it in the preferences, and you certainly can. This is very, very broad. I'm going to hit cancel, and I'm going to go back to the label. So let's say that I'm going to pick out of here some pictures that I really like. I'm going to give them that red label of select. I can either use my mouse. We all have one picture chosen right now because it's showing in our preview window. I can either go label and then go down to select, or do you see the shortcut next to it? Command 6. When I'm on this photo, I can simply do Command 6. And do you see how it puts that red bar underneath it? That means that it's associated with that label. So let's go through and pick 5 of your favorite shots, whatever they are, in here, and give them that red label or a Command 6. So just randomly grab a handful of them. Then let's say that we decide if it's an animal of any kind, snake, dog, lion, tiger, we really want that to be labeled with the yellow. So the yellow is Command 7. So go through here and pick the ones that have an animal. And remember, you don't have to do this. You can pick a bunch and then do a Command 6. So I have the snake chosen. I'm going to just scroll down. Here's a dog. In order to get that one selected, because they're not side by side, I need to hold Command and click on the dog. And I'm going to keep scrolling. There's another animal. Is that it? Are there just 3 animals, sort of? I think so. And to apply that label to all 3 of them, now that they're selected, I just do Command 7, and that gave them the yellow label. So you can use those labels however you want in your workflow. You don't need to change the technical name of them. You can just think, okay, for today, everything yellow is an animal. What's another one? The green label is Command 8. So if it's something like a nature scene, let's do all of those with Command 8. Let's give those a label. And if you already have them labeled something else like I do, we're going to change it. So if it's a nature-y type picture, Command click on it. And then Command number 8 to give those a green label. So you can do them one by one, or you can Command click all of them to get them loaded over here, and then just one time assign them that label with a shortcut of Command 8. Okay. Now what we can do, just click somewhere to deselect them, is we can also give rankings or ratings to our pictures. So just click on that first image, and underneath it, in your thumbnail view, you should see a bunch of empty stars. If you don't see that, you might be in too small of a thumbnail view. You might need to make your thumbnails bigger so that you see those stars underneath there. So another way of going through your pictures. So you've been a day at the zoo, you download 500 pictures, and you want to sort through them. How many of you do this and never clear off the really dud pictures? Like they're probably still living on your computer. How many of you do that? Let's be honest. How many of us are really good about getting rid of all the duds? Congratulations, that's awesome. So, an easy way of doing it in Bridge is the ones that are complete duds, like they're blurry or they're hideous, whatever, maybe give them a 1 star. And at the end of it, you sort by all the 1 stars and you say, delete, go away. I never will want you again. You don't need to hog up space on my computer. Then you can go through and say, what are the really good ones? Which ones do I want to look at? There's a ranking from 1 to 5 stars. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, will it take the pictures? Okay, like I have software that saves not only on the hard drive, but it saves in the cloud. Will it delete the ones from the cloud?
It should. It might ask you if you want to delete from the cloud as well. I don't know. Sometimes I would say no, because often we want to get them off of our devices but keep them on the cloud. So I'm hoping not. I'm hoping it would just take it off your device now that I think about it more. Or it would at least ask you, do you want to delete from the cloud as well? It's a good question. Okay, the 1 to 5 stars. So you've got a picture of the tiger splashing in the water. It's pretty good. Do you spend a lot of time going, is this a 3-star or a 4-star picture? Don't do that. You're going to drive yourself nuts. Okay, if it's a photo that you like and it's worthy, in my mind, give it 5 stars. Okay? Then you can look through your 5 stars and find truly the best one out of it. Don't sweat with, is this a 3 or a 5-star? So when I used to go to sporting events with my kids, I'd take all these pictures, and if it was an awesome shot that I wanted to look at later, I would give it 5 stars. But if it was an awesome shot of one of my friends' kids, I would give those 3 stars, and then later I would go through and look at all their shots and share them with them. You know what I mean? That was my thought process doing that. But there's no point of giving something a 3-star rating and then going back and thinking over it. It's either something you want to look at again or it isn't, basically. So, again, if these first 7 pictures were all of the same team and we went in the carousel and we found the one that was the best, we'd give that one the 5-star rating. In a perfect world, we'd probably dump the other ones, because what's the point of keeping them? But I never have that much courage. So underneath, if you want to give this a 5-star rating, click on the 5th star and it lights up all 5 stars, and it shows up down here as well. If you're over a picture, if you have a picture active, you can also go up to that labels spot again, and you can see that you could assign them up here or with keyboard shortcuts. Command 1 to Command 5. So I want you to just go through randomly, and I want you to give some a 1-star rating, some of them a 3-star rating, and some of them a 5-star. So just randomly go through and do that right now. You can leave some of them blank as well. They don't have to have a star rating at all. Okay, once you've done that, if you look in your content window, you should see color bars underneath them and then some stars lit up on most of them, not necessarily all of them. The way we can now sort to look at these is over at the top right of our window. We have a drop-down box that says sort by file name, and that's the way it's sorted right now alphabetically. We can also do sort by date created. So which picture is the oldest, which is the newest? That's going to show up if you do that sort. We can do sort by label. Now when we do that, at the top I have all the pictures that I didn't label, and then I have all the green labels together, all the yellows and all the reds. I can do sort by ratings. Click on that. I have my unrated photos to start. Then I have my 1 stars, my 3 stars, and my 5 stars. So using this sort feature can be really quite helpful. Let's go back to sort by file name so that it's just alphabetical. Another thing that you can do to the left of the words sort by file name is like a funnel. And if you click the down funnel, we can say, I only want to see my 5-star photos. So click on that. There are the ones that you decided were the cream of the crop. Okay. I only want to see my 3 or more stars. Click on that. So if it's a 3, 4, or 5 star, it's going to show up. And then you can always do the top choice in that drop-down box, which is clear your filter. All right, the next thing I want to share with you is keywords. So on the right-hand side here where we have our preview window, at the bottom, kind of small now because we dragged that window to be smaller, we have 2 tabs, metadata and keywords. I want you to make that bottom section a little bit bigger so we can see it again. So drag it up and switch to the keywords. Keywords are unlimited, whatever you want them to be. And by default, Adobe and Bridge have come up with some basic categories. They came up with people, places, and events. And underneath them, under events, they have birthday, graduation, wedding. These are just generic keywords that they're showing you that you might want to use. So what if you wanted to make your own keywords? So let's do that. In this keywords window at the bottom right, we see a plus sign. And it says new keyword. Let's click on that, and that makes a brand new keyword. Let's name this one animals. And then hit return. That's a keyword that we could apply to anything that's an animal. But if we wanted more specific keywords underneath it, we can make sub-keywords. So as long as animals is still highlighted, at the bottom right, whoops, I took it off the highlight. Animals is still highlighted. The bottom right, there's an arrow with a plus sign, your first one, and it says new sub-keyword. Click on that. And let's make one called dog and hit return. And then we're going to make another sub-keyword, but not a sub under dog. Don't do it with dog highlighted. Go back and highlight animals. And then click the new sub-keyword again and do tiger. Okay, at my view right now, I can see a dog and a tiger. So I'm going to select both of them with the command key. And I'm going to check box the keyword animals because they're both animals. They both fit that keyword, right? So as long as the image is selected and then you click to turn on the checkbox next to the keyword, it's automatically assigned. Okay, now I'm going to click on something else to deselect those, like the flowers. I'm going to go back to the dog. And I can see animals is still selected because it's already applied, but I'm also going to apply the dog keyword to the dog. And I'm going to go to the tiger, and I'm going to select the tiger keyword. I think there's one more. Isn't there one more in here or not?
There's a snake.
A snake, never mind. You get the idea, right? So, if you wanted to tag specific people, so we have Kira right here, and we have, it says James and the gang, or whatever. Let's say you were really into flowers. You could make a keyword called flowers, and then underneath it make subcategories of all the different flowers, and you could keyword tag those images. All that means is that a month from now, when you're looking for images of roses, if you've done this, you can easily do a search of the database, and it's going to pull up all the rose pictures, because you did this originally, right? So it's kind of making it a searchable database. Okay, we did that. Okay, now we're going to start to see the power of all this stuff that we did. Yep.
Is there a limitation of the character you can use, or like some stuff like can I use a dollar sign or a pound or anything?
I don't know. I've never done one that isn't a pure word, so I don't know how to answer that. I mean, we could try under animals if I wanted to do another one. Hashtag cats money sign. It took it, so I guess not. Yeah, I've never had to try that. Hashtag cats money sign. That's a great category. All right, let's randomly pick a picture and apply it some other keywords, even though they don't make sense. So maybe let's call this one Paris, and Matthew's in the picture, even though he's not. So apply some keywords randomly to some of these other images before we move on. And you do that simply by clicking the photo and then clicking the checkbox to activate it. Okay, everybody have that done? All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to use this left column over here to do our sorting. There's two tabs. One is called Filter and one is Collections. The collections I mentioned real briefly. That's like folders where you put pictures that go together in them and they keep them together. We're going to stay in the filters. Let's say we want to see all the pictures in here that don't have any sort of a label. To do that, we click the checkbox to the left of whatever we're looking for. So I only didn't label 6 pictures. If we stay in that same category and we say, okay, show me all of those plus all the red ones, and we click on the red, it's going to keep adding to it because it's showing me both those that are not labeled and all of those that are the select label. It also, behind it, says how many. So in my case, I had 7 that had no label and 1 that had the red label. If you want to take them away, uncheck. Now I want to see all of the shots that I considered green or approved. I click on this checkbox in front of it, and there they are. These are the pictures that I picked that way. So I think that was nature, landscape, something like that. That's what we decided green meant. Now what if I say, okay, there's a bunch of them. In my case, there's 13, but I only want to see the ones that are 5-starred. Go down just a smidge lower and click on the 5-star, and now your list gets smaller because it has to fit 2 criteria. It has to be the green label, which we called nature, and it has to be a 5-star photo. Pretty cool, right? It's pretty easy to do and it's pretty fun. All right, let's unclick both of those so that we have nothing going on. Let's go down a little further. So both of those were spun open. You can see that there's a little down triangle next to them, the word labels and the word ratings. When the arrow faces to the right, that means that you can twirl them open and see more. So we're going to twirl open keywords. Now I want to see all of the ones that I gave a keyword of animals to. There they are. What if I want to see the ones that I gave a keyword to tiger? Remember, this is adding to the list because I'm in that same category of keywords. So every time I check one, it's going to show me every picture that fits each one of those categories, not exclusive. So if I only wanted to see the tiger, I would have to uncheck animals just to see the tigers. Okay. Uncheck that so that we have no selections made. Twirl your keywords shut. And I want to show you some of the other things that you can look at. Date created. Again, these are the dates that the photos were shot and they actually show them. How they got there, I'll tell you in a minute. Orientation. How many of these are landscape, which is horizontal? How many of these are portrait, up and down? Pretty cool. If you're really into photography, you want to know about your ISO speed. How many of these did I shoot at 100 speed? There it is. How did it know that? It knows that from the metadata that I'm going to show you in just a minute. So uncheck that. How about aperture? How many of these did I shoot at an f-stop of 3.5? Just that one. What lens was used? Believe it or not, when your camera takes pictures, this metadata that it's recording is pretty cool. It's everything from the date, the time, what lens you had on, what camera you used, and how you had your camera set up. All of that is automatically stored in the metadata, and you can now sort by it if you'd wanted to. All right, let's close all of those. Let's say we wanted to really be detailed. We can go under the Edit menu up at the very top here and choose Find, which is Command F. That one makes sense as far as shortcuts go. Now we get a dialog box that has 3 questions for us. What's the source? And we're going to look in a folder called Pics for Bridge, right? That's the one we're working in. Then it's going to say, what's your criteria and what are your results? So in our criteria, we don't care about the file name, but maybe we want to choose keyword. Where are you? Keyword. If the keyword contains, and then what's one of our keywords? And it has to be exactly spelled the way we have them. So I have tiger with a capital T. If the keyword contains tiger, show me anything if any of my criteria are met. I only have one criteria, so it's pretty simple. So if I say find, there it is. But if we do Command F again, and we say show me the labels that contain, let's see, how do we do this? Oh, I don't know what that one is. Label approved is the green. And I want to make a second rule. So I click on this plus sign, and it has a rating that is greater than or equal to 3 stars. Those are my 2 rules, and I only want you to show me whatever photos match both. So in this last drop down, I have to say all criteria are met. So it has to be that green label and 3 or more stars, and there they are. So you can be very detailed, and you can keep adding rules. Show me only approved pictures that are 5-star that contain Matthew in Paris. If you have all those things assigned and you do this search, it's going to pull up just those pictures for you. Okay, that's the find command. All right, the last one I want to look at, oh, and by the way, so it pulled all these up for us, right? And it tells what they are. If you want to do a new search, you can start up here, or you can X out of it, or there's that little collections icon again. So if once you found all these, you wanted to put all those together in a collection, you could easily click on that button and make one. The cool thing about collections, how many of you have computers at home that have more than one hard drive? Do you have external drives or jump drives or anything like that, right? So let's say some of your pictures of Matthew in Paris are on your C drive. Some of them are on your jump drive, which is currently plugged in. Some of them are on your external F drive. When you search in Bridge, it looks out over all of these, wherever it is. If it matches the criteria of being green, 5-star, Matthew in Paris, it's going to show up here, no matter where they are, as long as the device is plugged in. When you make a collection, what it does is that it puts those all into a virtual folder, and when you open it up, it's going to show you all of them, no matter where they physically live. The cool thing is that normally to do that, you would have had to have made a new folder, called it Matthew in Paris, and dragged all 100 of those pictures into it, and that would have been a duplicate of what's already on your hard drive, right? Some of them are already there. All this does is say, hey, here's a folder of all the Matthew in Paris. If you want to get this one, I know it's on your jump drive if it's plugged in. If you want to get this one, I know I need to go to the F drive and find it. That's where it lives. If it's this picture, I know it's on the C drive in your photos. It's smart. It makes a smart collection without doubling up and actually physically making a copy in those folders. Okay, so collections are very cool. All right, to get out of all this, hopefully we're going to click this X up here, and we're just going to get back to our main Bridge screen. The last thing I want to share with you is metadata. So at the bottom right, we were looking at keywords. Let's click on the metadata. And let's find a picture that hopefully came out of somebody's camera. So try this Snapdragon picture. With that highlighted, in your metadata, you see some information. And in this top left square, you see the basic camera information. You see the f-stop, or the aperture that it was shot at. You see the shutter speed of 1/100th. You see the metering mode, the white balance mode, the ISO that the camera used, and if there's exposure compensation, that would show up right here where these dashes are. So that's a really quick way of seeing how your camera was set up. The next block over shows you the physical size. This image is 2048 pixels wide by 1530 tall. It's recorded in RGB mode. It's low res, it's 72 pixels per inch, or dots per inch, which is low resolution, and the file size is 1.29 megs. That's the quick and easy stuff. But now if you want to see details, you look in these other things that are spun open or shut. So I'm going to spin open file properties. We see the date it was created. This photo was taken back in 2009. You see the resolution, RGB, stuff that we saw before. You can spin that one shut. The next one down. Not all of these make sense for photography or design, but it's data that can be encoded in an image. There's one in here we're going to get to down here, DICOM. It says patient information, patient ID, date of birth, patient sex. In the medical community, like maybe an x-ray or something, I don't know, might be tagged with this metadata. Okay? So if it's tagged and part of this image, it will be read in this area. The camera data, the EXIF, this is where you really see how the camera was set up. It tells you the focal length. It tells you if the flash went off. It tells you what kind of camera took this. So this was taken with a Sony DSC camera. Audio and video don't really apply too much. This DICOM is the medical. So GPS. If you have a digital camera that takes GPS coordinates, that will be recorded too. So some people have cameras that specifically can do that. Maybe they're into hiking a lot or something, and they want the exact GPS coordinates of where that shot was taken. If their camera does that and it's turned on, it will get recorded into this metadata. So if you want to sort by pictures only taken in 2009, you can do that with metadata. If you want to sort by only shots that were taken at an f-stop of 3.5, that's something you can also do. It's pretty powerful. Any questions about this crash course in Bridge? We're going to use it a lot because we open it up and we can see our files before we pick them. So if we're in Photoshop and we have 17 photos that show up, all named image 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 JPEG, image 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 JPEG. You want to see what they look like usually before you open them. So if we open them through Bridge, we get to see a visual representation. From Bridge, how you make it open in Photoshop or whatever program it was designed in. So if we had an Illustrator file in here, we'd see a preview of it, but if we double click, it's going to launch in Illustrator. So JPEGs are going to launch in Photoshop. So go ahead and double click on any one of these, and it should bounce you into Photoshop and open it in Photoshop. There it is. So if you're in Bridge and you accidentally double click, you're going to get shot over here. You want to just single click to keep looking in Bridge. Yeah.
So far it's all JPEG, so that's only JPEG.
Nope, it handles everything. Yeah, all I have in this folder is JPEGs. But if you had PSDs, TIFFs, Illustrator files, if you had movie files in there, you actually see a preview of the movie, and you can scrub through and see the movie run in your thumbnail. It's anything. If it's a Word document, it'll kind of show you a thumbnail of the Word document or whatever. Yep. It's not exclusively JPEGs.
So that's where you dump everything first.
You don't have, okay, that's a great question, because I get that a lot from one of my friends who helped with this. She's like, well, I have to go to Bridge to get it. It's my pictures are all in Bridge. That's not true. Your pictures are wherever they are on your hard drive. Bridge is just a program that visually shows you what they look like, just like Finder does, just like my computer on a PC. So you're not loading them into Bridge. You're just looking at them through Bridge. When we actually do, that's a great question. I'll go back to Bridge. When we, in the digital photography class next semester, when we plug in our card back here, instead of letting it download on your computer, however you're used to doing that, dragging and dropping, we're actually going to go up here in Bridge to this icon that says Photo Downloader, and it's slowly bouncing. And we're actually going to pull our pictures onto our computer into wherever we tell it to go, but we're going to use this application to do it, because when we do it, this is so cool. I wish I would have brought something in. Jump drive. When we do this, we can actually tell it to bring in all the pictures on our card that we plug in. Let's say that everything on our card is from our trip to the zoo, and that's all it is. We can have that keyword of zoo added to all 500 pictures as they get imported. We never have to go back and do it. We can add our copyright. So you can put the copyright symbol, the year, and your name, and it's forever attached in the metadata to your photo. So when people steal your pictures and they lie about it, it's there. They can't get rid of it in the metadata. So when you bring them in through Bridge, there's another advanced dialog right here, which I don't know if this will, yeah, it is showing better. So when we tell it where to find it, we tell it where we want it to go on our computer, so into the photos folder or whatever. Down here in the copyright, we can put in our name and the year, and then we can also tag it with keywords and things like that as we bring them in. So it's a really powerful way of organizing right from the start. But again, it's not like your pictures live here. You can still open your pictures by going to the Finder and going to wherever you have them. You can do that. But Bridge shows us visually what they look like and allows us to add all of this data to them. Any other questions? Yep.
Any of the labeling and stuff like that that we do here at the Bridge, will that show up in Photoshop and stuff like that as well?
Yes. Yep. That now is attached to the metadata of that photo. So, good question. Let's go look at, so right now in the view that we're in Essentials. But there's a metadata view up there at the top. Click on that. And now when we look at a picture, we see how it has a rating, it has a label, it has keywords. So all of that information is always going with it. So in other Adobe products, you might be able to use that database information also. Maybe you bring it into the video editing and you want to find all the clips that contain Paris. It could use that metadata and pull them up for you. So yeah, it's cross program. It's part of the metadata from that point on. Any other questions?
So that's true even after you do the selections and things.
Yep. Yep.
It will still be
It's attached to that from now on. When we open this file in a week, all of these silly things we did are permanently attached to these images for now until we undo them. You can remove ratings and remove labels and remove keywords, but until you do, they live with the file and go with it. Yep. Anything else? Okay. Good news is we also don't have homework this week in this class because we just had to get going and learn this stuff. So, next week, when you come on Monday, we're going to hit the ground running. Everybody should have their own Creative Cloud. Everybody should have their files ready to go. Everybody can log in and life is good. And we'll get going on Photoshop. Yeah.
Should I talk to my
Yeah, I'll talk to you after class and we'll try to figure that out. Any other overall class? Yeah.
So if we have like a student version of Creative Cloud, we should just keep it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If any of you bought in at the 125, awesome. I'm glad you got it then, because evidently that offer's gone. If you have a student edition of the Creative Cloud, that's what we need.
Okay.
Yep. Yes. 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 Good point. Let's do that formally all together. Let's close out of Bridge. So the red square at the top will close you out of what you're doing, but maybe not the software completely. Log out of your Adobe account. So go back up to the Adobe icon up here at the top right. Click on the blue thing, which may be a picture of you, and say sign out. I'm not going to because I'm going to be in here again. And then also you need to log out of these computers. Now Kelly's in here this afternoon, so we don't need to shut them down completely, but you do need to log out. So go up to the top left corner where you have the Apple icon and make sure that you do the log out and then your name at the very bottom. If nobody's in here in the afternoon, we can do a shutdown completely, or you can anyway, it doesn't matter. But for sure, log out so that the next person can get on these machines.